Hello, and welcome to 6DOF Reviews. I am Pete Austin, and today I've had enough. I'm going to be dunking on VR. Wait, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like me. No, scratch that. Today I'm going to be dunking in VR, because today we will be talking about the very excellent Blacktop Hoops. Now, Blacktop Hoops has been around in some form for quite a while now, around 2 years in fact, since it received its very first early access app lab iteration. And I will admit I played it back then and thought, oh, okay, that's not quite it. And I didn't really dive back in again for quite some time. And lo and behold, here we are, some 2 years later, with the fantastic developers at Vinci Games having secured a full release on the Quest Store. Now, admittedly, this release happened a few weeks ago, and thanks to real-life commitments, I have not been able to find the time to do this review, but I have spent a good 6 to 8 hours playing the game since its release. It has come a long way, and I really wanted to tell you all about it, because I think it absolutely deserves some discussion. So, what is it? Blacktop Hoops is an arcade-style street ball game with some inspirations from one of the greatest games of all time. Categorically, by the way, there'll be no debate on this. That is NBA Jam. But, of course, brought into VR. So, that is to say, first-person perspective, be ballin' on the streets, half-court or full-court, depending on your fancy. So, the game, I will say, is abundant with options and content, and it currently is retailing for £23. I think it's $22.99 is the correct amount, and if you are the right sort of person, I think it's absolutely worth that money. The reason being, one, the basic mechanics are fun. They are intuitive. There are elements that take some getting used to because there is a definite skill curve. Just in real basketball, you wouldn't walk up on your first try and start shooting threes like it was nobody's business. You have to practice, you have to get good and master the technique. And that is exactly what you need to do in Blacktop Hoops. So there are various tutorials that will allow you to go through ball handling, shooting, dunking, stealing, defensive techniques. It's all there. It really, really is. Now, when I mentioned, of course, that there is also an NBA Jam-esque element, after completing a number of tricksy moves, your trick meter will build up to the point where you will be on fire. They don't say it. It's not a direct rip-off of NBA Jam, but they do the flaming ball, and you have one chance to make an unmissable shot. You can either do a super dunk, or you can nail it from literally anywhere. The gameplay is really, really fantastic. Once you get the hang of it, if you've ever played a little bit of basketball, it is intuitive and easy to start feeling like some sort of NBA superstar. You can cross over behind the back, you can do all the fancy footwork and trickery. It's really satisfying. It really makes you live that fantasy of being an excellent basketball player. And if you, like me, played a fair bit of basketball in your youth, but were too short to dunk, I'm 5'8". It's great because you get to live that fantasy. Just a click of the jump button, you're up in the air, and you are whammer jammer slammer time. It's really fantastic. The main mode that I played, there's a variety of modes, there's a lot of content, but the main mode that I found myself enjoying was the single-player campaign mode. Set to a variety of difficulties that you can choose. You play one-on-one versus a range of opponents across a number of courts throughout mainly America. You've got LA, you've got New York, but then if you're successful, you go on to Athens to face some of the best in the world. And it's a grueling set of one-on-one games, half-court rules, and I played it on an easy enough difficulty level. It was my choice that I wanted to have fun rather than stress about it, and have fun I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was cutting left, right, driving the lane, posting up, fade away, jump shot. Oh, I'm going to leave it up there. It's just so pretty. Extra points if you get where that quote's from. It's really, really good. You can pull off crazy in-air moves. You can do trick dunks. It is the power fantasy that you get with Hellsweeper. It's the same thing, like, instead of if you've ever wanted to be a superhero, you've ever wanted to be like a premium athlete. It's the exact same vibe that you've got going on here. It's really, really fantastic. The graphics and animation are really good, although not perfect. And one little criticism I will make is playing in the campaign mode. What I did find is every now and then the character I was playing against would skip an animation or a couple of frames of animation. So it would look like, for example, they were about to drive left. You would go to defend left, and then it would glitch a bit, and suddenly they were already taking a shot in the opposite direction, and it was impossible to defend. Now, that was few and far between. It did happen, pointed out, because the game's not perfect, but it did not happen anywhere near often enough to hamper my experience. I still found it entirely enjoyable. There is also a thriving multiplayer community to this game. Now, I played a bit of one-on-one against Omar, and we did have some issues. We don't know for sure if they were issues related to ping or if they were system glitches, but Omar, several times after stealing the ball from me, was not able to engage in the dribbling motion, and so that made it quite difficult. That series of games we played kind of felt a bit null and void, and my repeated winning just didn't feel right because he wasn't able to actually use the thing properly, use the controls properly. So be warned, there is some potential there. I think I also jumped into a couple of random matches, and one thing I will say, this game has been out for 2 years. It has a thriving community. It's been reviewed 15,000 times. Like, people are playing this game. Walking in as a noob, you prepare to get dunked on. There were 2 games that I played that were at the same level of competitive edge as if I tried to play street ball against my 9-year-old. And that's not to say that she's not a fantastic 9-year-old, but she wouldn't stand a chance. Anyway, so be prepared if you are going to engage in the thriving multiplayer community that you are aware that you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to practice, you're going to have to put in the time if you want to stand a chance. Now, I didn't enjoy the multiplayer quite as much. I think the animations that you play against in the campaign mode are so slick and just so cool that when you play against a real-life opponent and you've got all that janky weirdness of real-time multiplayer servers where their arms are a bit off and, you know, it's not slick, it's not cool, it really looks like someone's having a seizure in front of you. It ruined my immersion a little bit. Plus also, I was just getting dunked on. So I'm not saying that it's not great. I'm saying that for me personally, I was much happier just jumping back into the campaign mode and playing that way. I will, now that I've completed it on quite an easy mode, I will go back and just over time work my way through the campaign again on a harder level because it's that good. It really is that good. So graphically, it's really excellent. It's got they've great art direction that have picked a style that really works for the game and the gameplay. So it's cartoony, it's sort of disproportionate shoulders and forearms, it's got a really funky sort of edge to it. The animations, as I said, they're slick, they're smooth, they really feel like there's a couple of players that pull off moves that you're just like, this is great. I really feel like I'm playing against somebody with that skill. Yeah, graphically, I have no problems with it at all. I think it's really, really fantastic. I love the art style, in fact. There is a really, really wonderful opening to the campaign mode with a lovely piece of, I think Omar referred to it as slam poetry, but a lovely spoken word piece set against a very stylized opening sequence. And the vibe is right. They've really nailed it. It's good times, start to finish. Again, the sound, the ball sounds, the voice acting, with the exception of, I forget his name, but there is like the universally renowned dunk champion of the world. I forget his name, but he's in here, which is great because he's recognizable. He is, as far as trick dunks go, he is the bee's knees. Tell you what, though, do not look for him to suddenly switch over and become a voice actor. That's not happening. No offense, dude. Like, you are a bad motherfucker when it comes to dunking a basketball. But voice acting, not so much. Anyway, with the exception of that, all the voice acting is really great. It's really grounded. The score, the music in the background is exactly what you want when you're playing a bit of street ball. All I could ask for is a little bit more of it. It just got a little bit repetitive, again, after hours and hours. But again, you just keep it in the background. It's not obtrusive. It doesn't sort of impact on your gameplay. And it feels right. So sound-wise, you know, the ball bouncing, everything, it's exactly what you would expect. It's a top-quality piece. My criticisms, just before I finish off, because I do want you to know that I loved it, and I do recommend getting it, but I'm not going to try and tell you that it's perfect. The ball handling takes a little bit of getting used to. This is my one real thing. There's something about as you're dribbling, the hand positioning, and more particularly the wrist positioning, shifts in a way that I had to stop looking at my hands because it was so distracting. It doesn't match what you would be doing or what you are doing with your hands. The wrists kind of flick in towards your body in a way that, like, you wouldn't be able to dribble the basketball like that. Also, your hands don't really have much animation. It's that really hard, static hand that would actually be more like slapping the ball as opposed to that fluid finger motion of dribbling. Those are only really small points, but if there was anything I would wish was improved, it would be the hand animations and wrist positioning when you're dribbling, because I found that quite disconcerting. The other thing is you need to practice, and you need to become quite conscious of the direction of your hands as you're driving the lane, because there were a number of points where I did some absolutely devilish trickery to get around my opponent, and then I would hard drive the lane on my left hand, go up, pull off some incredible dunk maneuver, only to realize that I was no longer holding the ball in my left hand. Somehow I'd inadvertently flicked it into my right, and by the time I noticed that, I was on the way down and it was too late. So those two things around ball handling aside, I think it gets the mechanics about as well as you could expect for an arcade street ball kind of game. So, Blacktop Hoops is an outstanding arcade-style street ball game that gives you 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, half-court or full-court, multiplayer, or against AI modes. It's got a full store range of garments and cosmetics that you can buy if you wish. It is a tremendous game with very well thought out and executed mechanics that maybe need a touch more polish if possible, but not to any way bad or negative enough to detract from your experience. It's got great vibrant graphics, it's got a fantastic soundtrack, it's got great audio, tons of content, a thriving multiplayer community. It's really, really worth having a look at. So I am going to give it the score of 8 out of 10. 8. And then we will do the thing where I go 8. Dunkalicious. Do you like that? Should I try that again? No, let's leave it in. Dunkalicious. If you didn't like this style of review, and you would rather I took the time to put pen to paper and read to you in a dry but sexy tone of voice, tell me that in the comments. If I'm now your favorite person, hit the subscribe button, and if I'm not, hit the subscribe button anyway. Good day to you, sweet viewer. Go play some basketball in VR.
See how much you're struggling with. Well, if you've got time, go into like a random and test it and see if you have any better luck. I'll show you back to work. Stop shooting. Stop shooting hoops. Stop shooting hoops. But I have to go. I have to hit 1-3 before I can go. No, I have to hit 3.